Hi everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. Mr. Chris Hartman? Shit, I thought, but I didn't flinch or miss a beat in my conversation with Nathan, the bartender. I had only been back in Texas for 6 months after a 3-year self-imposed exile. How did she find me? And more importantly, why? I didn't turn around or acknowledge him in any way. I was just about to deliver the punchline to a particularly dirty joke when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Mr. Hartman, my name is Nick Carter. I have been hired to find you. I raised an eyebrow at Nathan and turned my head ever so slightly. Did you want to keep that hand, Nick? I felt his hand leave my shoulder. I turned back to Nathan and delivered the punchline. He laughed heartily, popped another Shiner Bock for me, and told me it was on the house as he ambled down to the other end of the bar, still chuckling. Mr. Hartman, we have business to discuss. I interrupted him. My name isn't Hartman, and I have no business with you unless you want to hire me to weld something. If not, well, we have nothing to discuss. Mr. Hart, that was all he got out before he hit the floor. I put $20 on the bar, massaged my right hand, waved to Nathan, and rose to leave. Mr. Hartman, you're a hard man to find, and I have no intention of starting my search over again. I looked down at the taser gun he was aiming at me. Even though he was sprawled on the floor, it was pretty intimidating. As he stood, he wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of his mouth. I have no qualms about using it, so sit down and let's have a chat. I glanced at Nathan, who was heading our way, and waved him off. He paused, nodded, and then said, "Let me know if you'll need anything, Jack." "Thanks, Nathan." I turned back and looked at the taser-toting asshole. Who the hell packs a taser in Texas? I chuckled and leaned in a little closer to him. "Do I know you, boy?" "Screw you, Mr. Hartman. Your manners need some work, son. You can't have been raised in Texas. Why don't you call me Jack and then tell me who you are and what the hell you want?" "Jack, is it? Okay, Jack." Nathan set us up with a couple of beers and put it on Nick's tab. I smiled, sat in the nearest booth, and asked, "So, why don't you tell me who this Hartman guy is, and why you have such a big stick up your butt about him?" "Okay, Jack, we'll play it your way, for the moment anyway." Mr. Evan Hartman was a successful, wealthy Dallas businessman who disappeared without a trace just over 3 years ago. He is married to a Mrs. Lila Hartman, and they have a daughter, Clara, who's 23. My name, as I told you, is Nick Carter. I have been hired to find Evan Hartman and return him to Dallas. Really? 3 years, you say, and without a trace? What's that got to do with me? You seem to have mistaken me for him, but I am neither Evan Hartman nor a successful businessman. My name is Jack Brown. I weld shit for cash, play a little guitar badly, and travel some. I had been so careful. Before I left, I paid a lot of money for a completely new identity. Since then, I had grown my hair and beard and lost about 30 pounds of fat, replacing it with 20 pounds of muscle. Lila wouldn't recognize me if I spat on her. When I left Dallas, I drove north and west for 3 days, stopped, and found a trailer for lease. I enrolled in a welding class at a local community college and started my life over. I left everything but cash in Dallas. A high-paying job, 2 homes, cars, credit cards, keys, a cell phone, clothes, and a lying, cheating bitch of a wife. I paid cash for a used Ford F-150, registered it in my new name, and drove it to a music store where I bought a used but beautiful Martin Dreadnought. I didn't take anything with me but the clothes on my back. I rarely stayed in one place more than 6 or 8 months and always paid cash. I didn't have any credit cards or a cell phone. I worked for cash under the table, didn't file a tax return, and almost always stayed out of trouble. It had to be Clara. I couldn't cut her out completely. About 15 or 16 months after I bolted, I sent her an email to let her know I was alive. I sent her another before every move from a public library computer just to let her know that I loved her and was thinking of her. I never told her where I was or why I left, and I didn't respond to any of her questions about either subject. She could squeeze that out of her bitch mother. Shit, shit, shit. Well, Jack, sneered Nick. As I was saying, a little over 3 years ago, Mr. Hartman just up and disappeared, and no one seemed to know anything about it. For the first year or so, the police followed up rather casually, in my opinion, and many suspected he either ran off with another woman or that he was the subject of some foul play on the part of Mrs. Hartman. It was a difficult year for Mrs. Hartman personally, professionally, and financially. She had tried to liquidate some of their assets but didn't have a power of attorney and couldn't get Mr. Hartman declared dead. So she was stuck. There was money in the bank, but few new funds coming in, so she went through those rather quickly. The poor dear, I tittered. She sounds like she's in a pickle. So tell me, Nick, how do I fit into this little made-for-TV movie? Well, Mr. Hartman, may I call you Evan? You can call me Jack like everyone else. I am authorized by the state to escort you, Evan Hartman, to the Dallas County Sheriff to answer charges of fraud and abandonment. I laughed out loud, much to his annoyance. That's a big mouthful for a little guy. Nick, your story is cute, but what fraud has been committed? When did bailing on a shitty marriage become a crime in Texas, and why would the Dallas County Sheriff give a shit? That dog just doesn't hunt. Nick, I emptied my beer bottle and swallowed. You can put your little laser pointer away now, Nick. Under the table, I pulled the slide back on my Glock. He really ought to pay more attention to people. He lost a little of his color, knowing there was a round in the chamber of the 9mm currently pointed at him. He gently placed his taser at the spot on the table I was indicating. I'd like to tell you a story, Nick. It's a story a friend of mine told me, I'd say about 3 years ago. You listening? Good. How about a couple more beers and a basket of wings? Nathan? My man. Nick here is on an expense account. I smiled as Nathan nodded and moved to prepare our order. So, there was this guy I met about 3 years ago. Let's call him Evan. He was married to a woman, we'll call her Lila, and they very coincidentally had a daughter named Clara. This is the story my friend Evan relayed to me. I can tell you the moment my marriage ended, or at least the moment I knew it was doomed. It was Lila's 50th birthday. We had decided to celebrate her birthday at our weekend home in the country. Just the two of us. She had always been a quiet woman who had no interest in parties or elaborate affairs. We were fortunate enough to be well off, and because of that, Lila had everything she needed and most of what she wanted. This made gift-giving a daunting challenge. For months leading up to her 50th birthday, I agonized over finding the perfect gifts. I subtly probed during conversations, sought advice from her closest friends, and finally settled on what I believed would make her happy. But when she unwrapped them, her reaction was a punch to the gut. Her face betrayed disappointment for a fleeting moment before a mask of forced appreciation replaced it. She thanked me with a strained smile, but after 24 years of marriage, I could see through her. Something wasn't right. I pressed her gently to share how she truly felt, and after some hesitation, she admitted the gifts weren't what she had hoped for. It's not that they're bad, she said. They're just not what I was expecting. I thought my 50th might warrant something more thoughtful. The words stung. I tried to explain the reasoning behind my choices, hoping to show her the care I had put into them, but she grew visibly irritated. The more I spoke, the more dismissive she became. Her final words were sharp and unyielding. You wouldn't need to make it up to me if you had put enough thought into it in the first place. I'll never turn 50 again. The rest of the evening was tense. She claimed she wasn't feeling well and insisted we head back to Dallas early. The drive home was suffocatingly silent, both of us simmering in our own corners of anger and hurt. That night reminded me of another time our relationship teetered on the brink. Back when we almost never got married. We had been in a long-distance relationship while I was away at college. During one of my visits, I caught Lila cheating. It happened while we were strolling downtown, her hand in mine, when a tall, older man approached us. He greeted her with an affectionate hug, and she introduced him as Dan. The way he smirked at me during our handshake set my instincts on edge. Something about his demeanor screamed smugness, and I didn't like it. Later, when Lila left for work, I decided to investigate. My suspicions were confirmed when I discovered their love letters, tangible evidence of a month-long affair. When I confronted her, she denied everything, insisting they were just friends. Furious, I walked out and cut off all communication. For weeks, her friends and even mine tried to intercede, but I refused to hear her out. Finally, she showed up at my dorm unannounced, begging for another chance. Eventually, she convinced me, but I made it clear. If she ever cheated again, we were done. Took years to rebuild trust, but 2 years later we married. Even then, she never fully admitted to her infidelity. Fast forward 11 years into our marriage, and things hit another low. My excessive drinking, workaholic tendencies, and frequent travel pushed her to threaten divorce. She said she no longer wanted to share her life with me. We argued bitterly, but I begged her to reconsider for the sake of our young daughter, Clara. She eventually relented, but not without conditions. She separated our finances, claiming she was preparing for the inevitable. Felt like she had one foot out the door. I tried everything to prove I was serious about change. Cutting back on drinking, balancing work better. But her walls remained up. Ironically, the financial separation worked in my favor. My earnings skyrocketed, and I poured my wealth into hobbies and investments. Motorcycles, a sailboat, flying lessons, even a countryside retreat. I ensured our household was taken care of, but the independence I gained allowed me to enjoy life on my terms. Despite the truce, the cracks in our relationship deepened. 2 years ago, after years of feeling like her employee instead of her partner, I issued an ultimatum. Either we work to rebuild our marriage or we divorce. She surprised me by choosing to stay. Over the next year, I threw myself into improving our relationship. I suggested new activities, initiated deeper conversations, and worked on our intimacy. But despite her participation, I always felt like I was carrying the burden alone. It was as if she was a passenger in our marriage, content to let me drive. We achieved a level of stability, but it was fragile. By her 50th birthday, we were in a better place, or so I thought. In the weeks after her milestone birthday, the atmosphere between us grew colder. The affection dwindled, and sex became rare and mechanical. She attributed it to work stress, and at first I believed her. She had always worked long hours during major projects, but this time felt different. Her late nights at the office became more frequent, and she started spending weekends away from our countryside retreat. Each absence came with a plausible excuse, yet I couldn't shake the gnawing sense of déjà vu memories of the past. Her indiscretions and my suspicions began to resurface. Over 6 weeks, we had sex only twice. Both times, it felt more like an obligation than an act of love. The second time, she left the bed immediately afterward, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Evenings were marked by her avoidance. When forced to interact, her irritation was palpable. One night, as I lay awake, I couldn't ignore the familiar pattern emerging. I had seen this before. Lila was hiding something. The shrew was back. Over the last 2 years, we had worked hard on improving communication, tackling issues before they became full-blown arguments. We adopted rules of engagement, addressing grievances head-on, avoiding deflection or blame, and always striving for resolution by acknowledging each other's feelings. But now, those rules seemed like a distant memory. When I tried to discuss her schedule, lack of affection, and our dead sex life, she stonewalled me for days. When I pointed out her violation of our agreed-upon communication framework, she lashed out, dismissing the rules and telling me to shove them up my bum. Through clenched teeth, I reminded her that these were non-negotiable commitments. Her response was cutting. Screw off and go negotiate with your right hand from now on. Message received. Her apathy was louder than any words. Was she cheating on me? Perhaps. Texas is a no-fault state, so it wouldn't matter legally, but I had to know. Betrayal wasn't just about infidelity. It was about being lied to. She knew my stance. Attraction to someone else was natural, but acting on it without honesty wasn't. If she wanted someone else, divorce was the first step, not deception. But now, my focus shifted from preserving the relationship to protecting myself. Years ago, before we merged our finances, I had set up a separate investment account where I funneled bonuses and savings. I never told her about it, largely because she insisted on managing our finances, and I had wanted a safety net. Over time, that account had grown significantly. Filing our taxes separately had been her idea, and now it provided me with plausible deniability about its existence. If she wasn't cheating, I'd split everything fairly in a divorce. But if she was, she'd see none of it. The Dallas house and our country property were another concern. I wanted to keep the latter, a retreat I had poured my soul into over the years. If necessary, I'd let her have the Dallas home, even though it felt like conceding too much. But if I couldn't keep the country property, I'd ensure it was sold before it went to her. Time was of the essence. If she served me first, I'd lose any leverage. My first call was to a college friend, a corporate lawyer. Over dinner, I explained my predicament and sought advice. His assessment was grim. Legally, there was no way to shield my assets in a divorce. Texas's no-fault laws meant an even split was the best I could hope for, regardless of her infidelity. His personal advice, however, was less orthodox. Don't file for divorce. Find out if she's cheating. If she is, take what you can and let her come after you. He referred me to a family law attorney, a shark he claimed even he would fear in court. The next day I met her. She walked me through measures to protect myself, changing beneficiaries on my will and insurance policies and hiring a private investigator. According to her, evidence of infidelity might not affect the division of assets, but it could be a useful bargaining chip. She connected me with a PI, an ex-cop with a solid reputation. Within days, my life was wired for surveillance. The PI quickly uncovered her paramour and their rendezvous. Soon I had video evidence in hand. Watching it was gut-wrenching. The physical act of cheating wasn't the worst part. It was the cruel words. They mocked me openly, planned their trysts in our bed, and reveled in their deception. Her lover's suggestion to cut me off sexually had been enthusiastically adopted. Now, their twisted pleasure revolved around humiliating me further. The woman I saw on those tapes was unrecognizable. Had I ever truly known her? The weight of betrayal crushed me. Seeing her infidelity stripped me of the anger and resolve I thought I'd feel. Instead, I was hollow. I sealed the evidence and handed it to my lawyer with instructions to pass it to our daughter if anything happened to me. I prepaid Clara's college tuition from our joint savings, depleting the account significantly. Then, I liquidated my hidden investment account. It would sustain me for years, ensuring I'd never need to touch the remaining marital assets. 2 weeks later, I stood in our Dallas house one last time. I left my keys, phone, and wallet on the foyer desk. My wedding ring I placed on my pillow. Let her interpret that however she wished. I packed nothing but essentials and walked away without a word. I didn't look back. Let her wonder, let her deal with the fallout. My only solace was the knowledge that, at least in this, I had taken control. For the first time in years, I felt free, untethered by lies, free to start anew. I didn't leave any letters. I walked out the front door without bothering to close it, got in my new pickup truck around the corner, and drove away. 2 weeks later, a 40-something married man and father of 3 was mugged and savagely beaten as he exited a Motel 6. Cheap prick. He would walk again, though not for a while, and even then with a pronounced limp. A month after the mugging, his wife received a FedEx package containing video evidence of her husband in bed with a woman who appeared to be in her early 50s. I heard they divorced a year later, leaving him broke. After leaving, I drove aimlessly for 3 days. I didn't have a plan. I stopped for lunch in a small town one day and decided to stay a while. A local community college offered welding classes, so I enrolled. Why not? After a year, I found work welding for an auto body shop. It wasn't a real welding gig, but plenty of people were willing to pay cash for a guy like me. Cheaper than a certified welder and perfect for small jobs. I enjoyed the work for about 4 months before moving on. Over the next 2 years, I crisscrossed the country, stopping in small towns to get laid and weld something. For the first time in years, I was happy. I'd hated my job in Dallas. The money was great, and I excelled at it, but every morning was a battle to get out of bed and face another day. I did it for my family. Lila loved the money, and Clara deserved it. Lila got to play the saint working for a not-for-profit, earning peanuts while helping people, or so it seemed. In reality, Her organization was a playground for rich businessmen's wives looking to feel self-important. Fundraising events made the society pages, but the dresses they wore cost more than most people earned in a year. It was pathetic. Most of the money raised went to fund the next charity event. Meanwhile, I worked a soul-crushing job because I loved my family. But when I left, I vowed to only do things for myself. I've slept with more than a few women since then. I wasn't looking for a soulmate or friend, just some fun. If things got too clingy or complicated, I'd move on. I don't know what became of Lila, the house, or the country acres, and I don't care. She made her choices. If she's happy with them, I can live with that. Secretly, I hope she's miserable and broke, but I won't go out of my way to ensure it. I'd like to see my daughter again someday, but only if she promises not to tell Lila. So far, she hasn't been able to make that promise. I hope she does someday. Nick, my friend, is happier now. He left a cheating wife and a job behind and hasn't given her a second thought. Why would he go back? To pay for her to screw him over again? It doesn't make sense. He's happy, healthy, and wealthy in the ways that matter. His marriage gave him two things: his daughter and his freedom. In retrospect, even the hole she brought to their marriage wasn't that great. She played him for 24 years. Nothing worth staying for or going back to. Nick told me the cruelest thing he could do to a narcissist like her was to pay no attention. Indifference, that would destroy her. He left everything behind to show her he was indifferent about her and their life together. It might take years, but she would eventually falter and fail. And in that, he would win. Nick sighed. You're an interesting character, Jack. That's a good story. Where's your buddy these days? I shrugged. Who the hell knows, Nick? Probably getting laid and welding something somewhere. My bet is Wisconsin. He always wanted to see it. Nick nodded. Say, why doesn't your friend's wife file for divorce under abandonment? Wouldn't that give her control of the marital assets she wants so badly? I laughed. No assets left. She tried to have him declared dead first. By the time she filed, she'd lost the house, the country property, and her job. What happened? She couldn't afford the properties. Both went into foreclosure. An older couple bought the house. The country estate went to a company called Nova Enterprises, some kind of metal arts consulting company. She lost her job when they found out she was screwing a married employee. Nick whistled. Wow, that's an itch that just won't quit. He tossed $40 on the table, stood, and extended his hand. No hard feelings? None, I said. But be more careful who you upset. You're lucky I'm patient. He laughed, took a few steps, then stopped. Without turning, he said, Jack? Yes. For what it's worth, Lila still loves him. She's sorry and hoped to get him back. She drinks too much and isn't doing well. I scoffed. Women like her don't know love. They're users. If she were truly sorry, she'd think about her daughter's feelings and what she put her husband through. She's sorry she got caught, that the money's gone. She doesn't deserve him. Nick turned to face me. Evan? I smiled. Yes, Bob. Wisconsin gets cold in the winter, but Clara loves it there. Maybe Nova Enterprises should relocate to Everett. Thanks, Bob. They just might. Listeners, what are your thoughts? Share in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.